The opinions expressed on the following audio program are solely those of the host and the guests. Burner Podcast is an independently produced, not-for-profit show and is not associated with the Burning Man organization or its subsidiaries. The views expressed are not representative of the entire Burning Man community and are presented here for entertainment purposes only. In short, calm the fuck down. It's just a podcast.
Episode number 11. It's the 11th episode of this crazy little thing we started. Oh gosh, what's the math on that? It's new episodes every 2 weeks. Or it's not even every 2 weeks. It's first and third Wednesday of the month. And we have not missed a show. And it has been such an amazing ride so far. I'm looking forward to all the amazing future shows to come. And it's, basically I'm going to sit down and have these fascinating conversations with these amazing weirdos anyway. And instead what we do is we hit record. And we call it a show. So there it is. You found the secret ingredient. But hey, if you're trying to figure out where to listen to the show, like maybe you've been listening just through iTunes and you're getting kind of bored of it and you want to try some different things, we're on like 25 different platforms. I mean, no joke. Okay, maybe not 25. It's like 6. We're on Stitcher. Stitcher is this amazing podcast app. They only have like the most recent episodes of every show they have on there, but it's really easy to navigate. They have all kinds of news and interesting stuff. So look up Stitcher. That's spelled STITCHER. That's at Stitcher.com. You can download the app. They have Stitcher as an app that comes with GM vehicles and BMWs, so it's like super easy to listen to our show or any other podcast you might be into through the Stitcher platform. There's of course classic iTunes. iTunes is our home away from home. Our home of course is burnerpodcast.com, but iTunes is you kind of have to be on there. It gives you some kind of street cred if you're a podcast. And if you're on iTunes, please help us out by going over to our page and leaving a review of the show. That helps us get some ratings and bring some extra attention to the show. So it really helps us out. It helps get the word out about Burner Podcast. So go to the iTunes page and do that. That would be extremely kind of you, or don't. Be a dick. See if I care. There's Libsyn. Of course, Libsyn is where we broadcast the show from. That's the one that sends it out. It syndicates the show. Libsyn is spelled L-I-B like Bravo, S like Sam, Y, N like Nancy. Libsyn is kind of like the home base. There's the player that's on the homepage at burnerpodcast.com. That's the Libsyn player, so you can check it out over there. There's, of course, TuneIn Radio. TuneIn Radio is a lot like SoundCloud. It's got a really clean, wonderful interface. And it's coming up on being sort of my favorite place to listen to. It seems to be one of the easier platforms. And, of course, lately we have been on top of populating our SoundCloud. So that's soundcloud.com/burnerpodcast, I think. Or you could just go to soundcloud.com and look up Burner Podcast and we'll come up. We have all the shows on there. It's probably the highest quality that you can listen to the show on, because I think it's just SoundCloud's platform is very clean. It's it's meant for music. So here's the cool thing that we've been doing. We have a new addition to the team. Our newest member of the Burner Podcast staff is a young, handsome Sikh by the name of Navjeet, who we'll just call Nav for short. Nav is our newest blah 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 blah. I can't even talk. Nav is our newest team member. Nav is now officially our music editor. And that basically means he's in charge of the SoundCloud. He's over there aggregating all kinds of music, sharing some great Burner sets, some DJ sets, but also all kinds of music from other Burner artists that aren't maybe necessarily DJ producers. So he's on top of doing that, and he's going to be a huge addition to the team. He's helping our online editor, Alpi, kind of redo our blog and make it look prettier. Huge asset to the team. I'm super thankful. Our team is growing. There's new people getting added on regularly that are signing up to help us out because they just love what we're doing. And I'm getting some really great, wonderful, positive feedback. Just the other day, I was at the Burner meet and greet at Red Wing here in San Diego, and Scott Scott, a good friend of ours, he told me exactly what I love to hear. He said that there are days where he's at work and he's not really feeling like he wants to be at work, and he's kind of like, oh God, I would love to just be around some of my burner friends right now, and he tunes into the show and it takes him away to that place where he wants to be, which is not at work. And that's without a doubt the best compliment that I could possibly get for the show, because this is who I do it for. This is who we do it for. We do it for you guys out there who, you know, maybe you're getting the blues and you want to be plugged in and you want to hear some of your fellow weirdos talk about some weird fucking shit, or art or music, or, you know, you just want to be around all the time with the burners. Like, that's why we do the show. That's why it's here. I've said several times, it's for that one lonely burner couple that lives in some small town in South Dakota where they don't have a community the way that we do over here, and they can tune into Burner Podcast and feel like they are right here with us having this conversation. That's why we do the show. So I love hearing things like that. By all means, if you have input, you can tweet me directly. That's at Mr. Arash, M-R-A-R-A-S-H. That's at Mr. Arash. That's on Twitter. If you're talking about show on Facebook or any other social media-y thing, you can use the hashtag Burner Podcast. I usually say this stuff at the end of the show, but I figured I'd plug it up to the front and we'll have like a real professional intro. A lot of cool stuff's been happening in the past couple of months. Everybody's really busy. A lot of things going on. Producer Meg and a huge chunk of our, well, not a huge chunk, a few important community key leaders from San Diego, as well as many of the other regions, are just getting back right now from the GLC, the Global Leadership Conference, over at Burning Man headquarters in San Francisco. And people have been sharing all kinds of photos and stories and revelations and all kinds of amazing shit. It, of course, was an amazing experience for them. Presidential candidate Denis Kucinich apparently spoke, which that was unexpected. I did not know that, but I've been seeing pictures of him, and it looks like everybody had a really wonderful time. I do know that somebody's car from our group here in San Diego got broken into. I believe it was producer Meg's car, to be honest. I have not spoken with her since she got back, but some stuff got stolen, so that was kind of a sour note. Feel bad. Jim Robs, Bob, one of our good friends here, the lead, next year's lead for Utopia, our regional burn. I think he had his backpack and his laptop stolen. So that was kind of a sad thing to hear. But overall, I heard it was a really amazing experience. And another thing that just passed was the Desert Hearts Festival. You have probably heard of Desert Hearts. It is a music label. It is a crew of artists and DJs. It is, of course, the festival that everybody is talking about. I have yet to go myself, but the people that go get completely addicted to the vibe out there. And a lot of people, it's very common to hear people call it the next lightning in a bottle. And it's a huge compliment or a terrifying thing to hear, depending on sort of which side of the fence you land on. But there is international attention coming towards Desert Hearts right now. Resident Advisor is giving him a bunch of love and saying this is, like, you know, one of the things you absolutely must check out. So it's pretty cool. There's a lot of attention coming towards Desert Hearts from all over the world, and what a privilege if you live in the vicinity of the Southern California area where you can go check it out. And mark my words, Desert Hearts is going to be, right now, at this time in history, it's one of those things where if you've been, or if you're going, people in the future will be in awe of the fact that you had this experience here in 2014, 2015, whatever. You got to go to Desert Hearts, and that'll be a story that you can tell. Like, holy fuck, I went to Desert Hearts back when it was, like, you know, smaller group of people and so. Like, it's going to keep growing. And that's some of what we're going to talk about on the following interview with Mikey Lyon, who is one of the founders of Desert Hearts, one of the guys instrumental in getting Desert Hearts to where it is right now. It's definitely going to be even a bigger thing than you could even imagine. I just completely filled up an empty space because I was looking at my notes and trying to figure out what to say next. But I got to see Mikey Lion most recently spin at Lucent Dossier in the Lucent Dossier experience in LA, which I went to a few weeks ago. And we had an artist by the name of Hill Young on a previous episode of Burner Podcast, who was also at Lucent Dossier. So that was a pretty cool experience. Now getting another performer from that amazing event on the show. Mikey Lion is just a phenomenal DJ. You have most definitely seen him with his giant top hat making you shake your ass. If you've been to any events around the Southern California area, the man gets around. And let me tell you something. Mikey is just the ultimate music geek. And I mean, you just see his face light up when we're talking about music, and it's a really great experience. The following interview is probably like the most, like, I don't know, professional radio interview I think that we've done with Burner Podcast. It's very chronological. We're really just breaking down Mikey Lion's history, how he got involved in the music scene, how he climbed up, how he started out in hip-hop and eventually ended up doing the house thing. So it's really, really fascinating. And more than anything, I think the most interesting part about this podcast that didn't really dawn on me until a couple of weeks after we recorded it, it's kind of a history of the techno scene in San Diego and where it came from and where it has gone. A place that has birthed and cultivated some legends that are now a big part of the techno and deep house scene, and not just in San Diego, but in different parts of the country and maybe even the world. So we're going to get into some of those stories. I mean, what we really get into is a lot of San Diego, but if you are that kind of music geek, which I can tell you, by the way, our new music editor, Nav, is, Nav, you're going to fucking love this episode. You know what? I did this whole thing for you. So it's, you know what? We're just going to go ahead and jump right into it. Mikey Lion is our guest today. We're going to get into all of that, talk about the history of that stuff and blah, blah, blah. And this is the part where I'm just ranting on, and I should just go ahead and start the show. I go by Mr. Arash, even though nobody calls me Mr. Welcome to Burner Podcast.
On the first part of the journey, I was looking at all the life. There were plants and birds and rocks and things. There was sand and hills and rain. The first thing I met was a fly with the balls and the sky with no clouds. The heat was hot and the ground was dry, but the air was full of sound. I've been through the desert on a horse with no name. It felt good to be out of the rain. In the desert, you can't remember your name, 'cause there ain't no one for to give you no name.
All right, Mikey.
How's it going?
Excellent. How are you?
Doing great.
I caught you I caught your set at Lucent Dossier the other week.
Nice.
Yeah. How was that?
It was cool. It's kind of like a weirder setting just because you know, is the Nokia club, like we were kind of in like the side room up there, but it was cool. It was like it's a total, you know, it's Dulab.
Yeah.
Dulab's always been like a really big influence for us, and so like, you know, when they asked us to play, it's like a no-brainer. We want to go play with them. Anything that they do, really.
Well, let's actually cheers first, because
cheers.
Salud. It's very important to always drink after you cheers. So,
Definitely.
Yeah. My sister-in-law is from Austria, and she said it's 7 years bad sex if you cheers and you don't drink and you don't make eye contact. So we're good, I think.
Yeah, I think so. Cool.
Yeah. It's funny. I was actually reading your bio on Resident Advisor, and it said started out with Daft Punk and Wu-Tang.
Yeah.
And the last time I was at Nokia Club, I actually caught Wu-Tang.
Nice.
So
hell yeah. And
on the last show that aired, so this one is going to air like a few shows later, so they're not going to be right after each other.
Sure.
But I had Hill Young. Do you know her? So she's a painter. She's an artist, and she was doing live art at Lucent Dossier.
Okay.
So it was just kind of interesting that like, 2 guests back to back that I've recorded.
Nice.
We're both at that event. There's a Wu-Tang connection.
Yeah, Lucent Dossier is amazing. Wu-Tang's like my first love of music, really. When like 9th grade, I think I bought 2 CDs at like the store when I was in 9th grade. It was Gangstar, Moment of Truth.
Yeah.
And then Jizza, Liquid Swords. And like,
did you catch him when he was here?
Yeah, I've seen Jizza in the Wu-Tang like tons of times. And you know, I've always thought like, you know, that like Gangstar was like super accessible like right away, and I didn't really like get into the Jizza album until like, I don't know, like 2 months after I bought it, and I like was like, holy shit, this is like the best ever, like once you understand it. And then that's what kind of like launched me into the whole just like everything Wu-Tang, everything hip-hop, and ultimately that's why I wanted to start DJing, was just like I was so into hip-hop. What
is it about Wu that spoke to you?
I don't know. I just think like I love like the whole like crew aspect of it. And just like there's all these different, so there's like 9 Wu-Tang generals is what they call them, and they're like, you know, RZA, Jizza, Raekwon the Chef, ODB, like it's all of them. And then there's like this like whole like Wu-Tang family of I think like 100 other rappers and producers, and they just have this like whole culture about Wu-Tang that they just kind of started, and it was all based on, you know, Asian like kung fu movies,
martial arts movies,
and it was just like so different than all the rest of the hip hop that was around and stuff. And it's just like it was kind of like they had this like different concept of like what hip hop could be. They were kind of like the first like super crew of you know, MCs, and that was like, that's what really got me into them. And they all like had like their different styles, so you could see that style across each album and across, and then, you know, they always had like each other on their albums. So
when you first started like spinning hip hop, that was what it kind of started with, it seems like.
Yeah, definitely. When I was in 9th grade, my mom and my dad, they asked me, they're like, what instrument do you want to play? We'll pay for any instrument that you want. We just want you to like get into music. And I like thought about it for a week or so, and I was like, came back, I'm like, yeah, I want the Technic 1200 turntables. And they were just like, no, that is not an instrument. Like, what are you talking about? And I'm just like, no. And so I ended up like saving up all my birthday money and Christmas money and stuff, and I ended up buying just like a set of Technic 1200s and just like a little mixer in 9th grade, and, you know, just started scratching.
Wait, so you just said no to the instrument then? Like, no, I'm just gonna go and get it myself.
Yeah, exactly. I was just like, all right, I'm just gonna like.
Could you just get like a set of drums or something? Just something to fuck around with?
Yeah, I could have for sure, but I was just like, no, I want the turntables. Like, that's what I save my money for. And then, like, my parents saw how obsessed I was with it, and because I would just come home from school every day and just like scratch for hours, that they're like, oh my God, this is an instrument. Like, it's like just manipulating sound in different ways. And they ended up paying me back for the turntables.
That's awesome. So did they have a music background? Is that why they were?
No, not really. Like, my dad's always just like loved music, but he's never really been a musical, like, you know, he didn't ever make any music himself really, but he's always been like a huge collector of just like CDs and albums and stuff. And
they're like, we'll just live vicariously through you.
Kind of, yeah. But they've always been like my biggest supporters ever. And then my brother kind of followed in my footsteps, and now he's part of Desert Hearts, and we just have that whole thing going. Like,
it's amazing.
That's the direction that our life's going, and they couldn't be happier because we're happy.
Yeah. So it's just you and your brother?
We also have an older sister. And she's kind of more, she's not as into like electronic music as us, and kind of just in like a different scene. And she lives up in LA.
Your brother's older or younger?
Younger brother.
Okay.
His name's David, but he goes by Pork Chop.
Oh, okay.
and he's part of the Desert Hearts crew, one of the founders of the festival and the whole thing. So.
Yeah. So it sounds like the things that excited you about Wu-Tang like eventually followed you into Desert Hearts.
Yeah, totally. And I kind of like see them as, somewhat of a model for what we're doing because, we have out of the 6 founders of Desert Hearts, 5 of us are DJs. Mm-hmm. And then we have like this whole other just like crew of resident DJs that we've brought on that we love. And so when we go play places, we like, the most fun thing in the world is playing with your boys and stuff. And so like, we just like can create this vibe over, a course of whatever, like 12 hours, however long we're supposed to play for. But it's just like, we all feed off of each other. We can all play back to back with one another. Yeah. Like, so I kind of see it as like, and I really just like thought of that kind of like just recently, is that like the similarities between Desert Hearts and Wu-Tang, and we have like our own culture that's really surrounding the festival and the vibe and everything that we do that's really kind of sprung up. So it's not a bad model. They're pretty successful.
It's amazing. I would have never guessed.
I know, right?
Literally until right. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna go ahead and like take a guess and then correct me. Like, so we're gonna jump back to the beginning of your history.
Sure.
So you start out spinning hip hop. You're obsessed with the turntables. You're using them as an instrument. Parents are like, okay, cool, whatever. At some point, I'm assuming you transition in the house.
Yeah, and that was when I was 17.
That's sort of like a lot of people don't realize this in like house scene today, but that's the natural progression.
Totally.
Yeah.
When I was 17, me and my friend, we went to our first Coachella. It was like our first festival ever. We weren't even old enough to camp in the campground, so we just like slept in the back of my pickup truck for like the whole weekend in like the main parking lot. And we at some point like we had never even heard of Daft Punk before, and at some point like just throughout the course of the weekend someone was like, oh, like you guys should go check out Daft Punk, they haven't played in like 7 years in America or something like that, and like it's gonna be like this like groundbreaking thing that they're doing. And so we're like, okay, like, we'll do it, and like at that time, like right before Daft Punk came on, my friend like, offered me like my very first role.
Yeah.
And like, okay, like, let's go for it, and then Daft Punk came on, and it was literally like the debut of their Daft Punk pyramid stage. Yeah. Never been seen before, and it was just like, what the fuck? This is like, like I remember just like screaming, just freaking out. Like I had no idea music could be this good. Like just plus I'm on cloud 9 and like just the visuals and the music and everything, and I'm just like, fuck hip hop. I'm gonna DJ electronic music from now on.
Because in a lot of ways, like I'm assuming the things that you were like geeking out on the most while DJing hip hop are like basically you strip away the other stuff, the socio-political movement, and get into just like the dance part of it, the sound effects, the mixing, and then that's pretty much what you got left as house. Yeah,
exactly. And so
it's hip hop for nerds.
Yeah, a little bit. It just became this like obsession. Like as soon as I left Coachella that weekend, I went home and started like saving my money for a Serato scratch because before that I was playing just all hip hop vinyl that I would go buy at like a local record store in Encinitas, and they didn't have barely like any dance music records, and if they did, they were all like $10 to $15, and it was just like, okay, well, I could do that, or I could just like be able to DJ anything that I find on the internet. And so that's like really when I started DJing house music and got me really into that whole thing.
You said you were about 17 at this time?
Yeah, I was 17 when I first discovered dance music.
Yeah.
And I'd been DJing since I was 13.
Yeah. So then what was like your first sort of like big show debuting as a house DJ?
So in college, in my second year in college, I couldn't bring my turntables into the dorms because I didn't have enough room. And my parents like loaned me some money so I could buy a kind of just like PA system, just like basically two tops and a sub. And this is my second year in college, and I basically became like, like the go-to college DJ who you could like, people could pay me, or I just play like whatever party just to play.
Yeah. Where'd you go to college?
San Luis Obispo, Cal Poly.
Yeah. I've been up there several times.
Yeah, it's super
they have like
nice.
a big like indie music scene over there.
Oh, yeah, kind of. It's a, SLO, slow is the abbreviation for it, and it is like a tiny little college town on the Central Coast. But like, we just built this scene over the course of 3-4 years that I was in college, and then like there started just being like, renegade raves that were going on that we'd throw in the woods, and just other things like that like really got me in front of people. And then I remember I got my first gig booked at like an actual like bar club, and it was like a super big deal because I'd never played a legit thing before. And so as I'm about to start playing, in walks my dad, who drove up from San Diego to surprise me for my very first gig.
Yeah.
And just like, oh my God, like, what are you doing here? And just like, oh, you think I'm going to go and like not be there for my son's first big gig? It's like sick. This is so amazing. And then
you just made like, I don't know, 80% of the artists that I know completely jealous.
Yeah,
your parents
totally.
were like super supportive.
Yeah, completely. I completely realize like how insanely fortunate and lucky I am to have parents who like just encouraged me to chase my dreams and do whatever I wanted to do. Mm-hmm. And that was like, it's like the biggest blessing ever. I'm so lucky and so fortunate for that.
Yeah. I wondered, because you said like your first experience at Coachella, that was also your first role. Like, because there's a lot of people, some mic just cut out. I was listening to Chicane before you came over.
Yeah, no worries.
All of a sudden I got into the mood to like listen to some Ibiza stuff. But so that was your first experience, and like a lot of times people confuse that for just being like, the chemical high rather than the actual like connection to the music.
Right.
I wonder, like, did you have like an awareness at that time that there was a difference? There was something that it was tuning in you that stayed with you even after the thing wore off?
Yeah. I mean, it was just kind of like one of those experiences that was like so mind blowing that like it was just like in my DNA after that. Like house music and dance music and the lights and just like, whether you're under the influence of, alcohol or weed or whatever, I think what the difference is, and you can feel what's real and what's not.
Yeah. I think if you're an artist, for sure you do.
Yeah, definitely. And, I've always been like pretty responsible about, what I put in my body, and what, what's real and what's fake. Mm-hmm. And so when I saw that and I was like just one with the music completely, either way, if it was like chemical induced or if it was just like how good the music was, it still like left that lasting impression on me.
Yeah. It awakened something.
Totally.
Yeah. And that thing continued to remain awake as you continue your journey. So at some point, again, right now I'm just kind of going through your bio. At some point you end up in Ibiza.
Yeah.
How old were you? So
that was when I was 21.
Yeah.
And
that's Mecca, literally. It's dance music. Yeah, Mecca. It's heaven.
Yeah. And when I was a third year in college, I had the opportunity to study abroad in Barcelona for about 4 months, and I just knew that like, okay, I want to go see as much of Europe as possible while I'm here. So I just basically spent like every weekend traveling as much as possible. And I ended up at
what were you majoring in?
Business marketing.
Okay.
Smart. Yeah.
Not art, like
yeah,
some of
totally.
us.
Yeah, and honestly, like, at the time, I wasn't sure that I was like, that I was gonna, make it as a DJ or this was gonna be like the clear path for me. Is like, I knew that I wanted to work in music. It's in some capacity. I didn't know what it was exactly, but as long as I could work in music, like that was a win for me. So I went to Barcelona, and we ended up going to like the closing weekend of Ibiza. So like everywhere is basically just throwing their like biggest baddest party of the whole summer.
Everything is expensive as fuck.
Insanely expensive, yeah. And yeah, I just saw like so many artists that I have just like, those have been like my favorite artists for like the past 5 years
like
or so. We went to the closing party of Space Ibiza, which is like the biggest club out there pretty much. And I think the lineup was like, it was like Steve Lawler into Guy Gerber into T. Schwartz. And so like all three of those right there are like some of my all-time favorite artists that I just like didn't even really know that well before then. It was just like, and then it was also on this, we were on this, it was like the terrace stage, which is like, it basically holds like 5,000 people. It's an outdoor stage, and it's in the middle of this insane lightning rainstorm.
Oh my God.
So yeah, that was another, everyone's dancing in like a foot of water, basically. Just one of those like mayhem DJ experiences that's like, this is the shit. Yeah. Like amazing.
My first role was actually it was in Ibiza actually.
Yeah.
And it was Paul Van Dyke at Amnesia.
Nice.
And I remember like for like the past however many years, I keep pitching to one of my buddies about how like I can't find like good trance in like Southern California. It's just hard down here. And one day I told him that was my first time. He's like, "You fucked yourself. You were in Ibiza. It's never gonna get that good again."
I know.
This is like 2005-ish or something.
Yeah.
Like the height.
For sure.
But I remember just like watching Paul Van Dyke, and like what he would do is he would get on the decks and he would mix, and then he'd kind of like throw his hands up and kind of do some crowd hyping, and then he'd take a step back and cross his arms, and I kind of see him in the shadows, and he's like watching. Yeah. Just like intellectually dissecting the crowd. Yeah. Like I wonder, like, what are some of the things that you're sort of watching in those kind of situations? What that gave you inspiration?
Okay, so I forget who said it, but like early on when I first started DJing, it might have been like Derek Carter or something like that. But they said that when you're DJing, what you should do is you should pick out like, maybe 5 or 6 people within the crowd that are like especially on the level and especially are like getting it, that you can vibe with. Okay. And these people are like the distinct party starters within the crowd that people feed off of their energy. Yeah. And so
they're like your sergeants.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And you can tell like who's killing it on the dance floor harder than everyone else, Yeah. And people get hyped on that energy and they feed off of that. And so you basically you DJ for those people, and those people are basically, they are absorbing your vibe and they are spreading it to everyone around them.
That's amazing.
And so I've done that like ever since, and I always try and pick out specific people in the crowd that are just like, like making like clear eye contact with me, and just like, all right, kind of like give them a nod, just like, all right, let's fucking do this. And it's fucking worked like magic every time.
So you'll just kind of like track how hyped they're getting, and then like kind of mix based on that.
Mm-hmm. And mix for them. And like, as long as they're having a good time, then everyone else around them is having a good time too.
How many of your songs do you pre-plan versus how many you're just picking on the spot?
I pre-plan like barely any. I mean, I'll basically like have, you know, I'll have an idea of kind of like what I want to play that night based on, you know, like, you know, either researching the party before or just being there, whatever the DJ before me is playing. And then kind of from there have, you know, 100, 200 songs that I kind of have the idea of going in with. And then from there, just choosing from those and like fine tuning what's going to work in what order. Like, never have any idea, like, you know, okay, I'm going to play this song into this song into this song. Like, never ever.
Yeah.
That's not DJing really. That's like having, you know, a set that you're like just playing for somebody. You know, a lot of the times that I listen to my recordings from mixes and I'm like, oh, do I want to put this out? A lot of times it's not something that is necessarily like, you know, cohesive for listening to in your car, because it's kind of like, you know, sometimes it'll be all over the place. But in that moment, it was the right thing to play. Yeah. And, you know, just like my Desert Hearts mix from the last festival, like, I couldn't tell you like how many people told me that it was like their favorite set of the weekend. Yeah. But then like when I went back and listened to it again, I'm just like, oh, this doesn't transfer. Like, you kind of had to be there.
Yeah.
And
yeah, it's the same way that when you listen to like live albums, like when somebody does like a live version of the song,
totally,
it doesn't carry over the same way as when you're listening to it. Like, you're right, at home in your car, different bass lines, different energies.
Yeah.
Because there's in that moment when you're in a live audience, what a lot of listeners, I think, might not be able to grasp is that the art is being created right there live.
Right.
You know, it's not like you're just like playing the music, which is what a lot of people who don't who aren't into this kind of music don't understand.
Definitely.
So I want to go back to Ibiza though. So you ended up gigging out there, is that correct?
Not in Ibiza, but in Barcelona.
Okay.
And so I basically just like got super lucky. I had only been DJing like, you know, DJing out and playing like gigs in house music for like maybe like 6 months at that point. But I just met the right promoter out there who just like, we hit it off super well. And he just invited me. He's like, hey, I need a DJ for Wednesday nights at Sala Razzmatazz, which is like, Razzmatazz is like the super club of Barcelona. There's like 5 clubs packed in one. Yeah. And he basically he's like, okay, like once a week you're gonna play from midnight till 5 a.m. Wow. And it was just like, holy shit, all right, let's do it. Like, okay, I can handle it. And so just that's what really like just,
what night of the week was that?
It's a Wednesday night.
You had school though, right?
Yeah, for sure.
What time was school?
I like noon or something like that.
Okay, all right.
I like picked my schedule by like, all right, do you want to take Spanish 1 or Spanish 2? Like, Spanish 1, and like I was like, well, I've taken like a good amount of Spanish in high school. Yeah. But it's like, all right, Spanish 2 starts at 9 a.m. and Spanish 1 starts at noon. I'm like, all right, I'm taking Spanish 1.
How long did that gig last for?
So I did that for about like 2 to 3 months, once a week, every Wednesday. And that's what really kind of just taught me the real basics of like, okay, how do you create a cohesive set over a long period of time where you're not just like banging it out for, 5 hours straight. You have to create some kind of like roller coaster ride of a vibe.
Peaks and valleys.
Exactly. And
that's a lot of what today is just like impossible to go to a festival. It's nothing but peaks.
Yeah.
It's explosion after explosion.
Well, that's like what you get when you have like a 45-minute set at like Coachella or something like that. You have where, you only have an hour. It's like, all right, like you need to just drop like your bangers, because you want to leave that impression of like, high energy. You had a lot of fun. But I think that's what separates like Desert Hearts from any other festival is that we're 72 hours nonstop music. And so if you come in and just bang it out, it's like people are going to get over it because and everyone gets a 2-hour set as well. So you have time to really like create something and, you know, make people feel, you know, different ways like throughout your set. And so, yeah, that was like Barcelona was where I learned like everything. As far as, like how to just create a vibe, how to keep a dance floor, how to give it to them when they want it. And, you know, and then like, you know, tease them, everything.
Did you have any like, oh shit, I just completely fucked up moments?
Yeah, of course, man. Like,
I mean, like a big one. Give me like a big embarrassing one.
So there is like, I want to say it's probably like, I don't know, 2:30 in the morning. It's packed. It's going off. And there's a song, there's a Mastercraft song that, you know, it was like huge when I was playing it back home in school. And I dropped it. I'm just like, oh man, this is going to kill right now. And it's just like totally the wrong vibe, totally the wrong like style of music to be playing in Barcelona. Just fucking cleared the place.
Yeah. I'm not familiar with the song. So like, what is it about the vibe that didn't work out?
It was like kind of cheesy electro when it should have been like organic tech house kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And I was just, you know, back then I'm just like, play anything just to see what happens. And that was, you know, it was all a learning experience. I don't think you're a DJ if you've never cleared the floor like 100 times.
Yeah.
You know, you have to learn from that experience. You like, if you're just always, you know, on point, you've never experienced that, you know, not getting the vibe, then you haven't been pushing it hard enough, or you haven't been like testing the waters hard enough. You've been playing too safe.
Yeah. That's definitely like a lesson throughout life, pretty much no matter what discipline you're in. If you haven't eaten shit, like dramatically, you're not growing.
Exactly.
What did you have an observation about like a general difference in tastes over there versus over here?
Yeah, they're just 5 years ahead of us pretty much.
Yeah.
You know, Tech House and Deep House 2009 it was just going off over there. And we were still, you know, listening to like Justice and some of the bigger, you know, Mastercraft, like more like just hard electro and kind of like bro step was like coming into the scene.
I feel like we have more of like a Super Size Me culture here.
Totally.
We're not big on peaks and valleys. Like that's a big thing I've observed.
Yeah, exactly. And so, yeah, when I came back, I was, you know, I was like so anti-America. I was like, I can't believe I'm fucking back here. And of all places, I went back to San Luis Obispo, which is like this tiny little town. And I'd just been in Barcelona, my first like real city life experience where there's like culture that's 2,000 years old. And, you know, I'm back in San Luis Obispo, which is like this little conservative town that, you know, there's like maybe like one good party a month that played like good music. And
then you still have to finish school.
Yeah, and I still had to finish school. I still had a year left of school.
Yeah, a year off. Okay. Okay.
So that was really hard for me. But then you know, the culture shock goes away and you start figuring it out, and you're like, oh, there's so many things that I appreciate about America. But I came back from Europe just like 100%. I'm moving to Berlin.
Yeah.
Like no way. I'm like,
I didn't like Berlin. That was depressing.
I love Berlin.
What is it about Berlin?
Berlin is just their entire culture is based on electronic music, basically. It's like San Francisco on steroids.
Yeah.
You know, it's really cheap there. It's really like just the culture is just out of control. The art is so good.
Yeah.
and yeah, just they live and breathe electronic music. And it all came from like in similar fashion as how Detroit started techno. You know, Detroit went underwater pretty much, like the whole city like collapsed, and so there's all these empty warehouses that people were, you know, like, let's go throw a party there.
Yeah.
The same thing happened in Berlin where, you know, the wall, basically they took down the wall, and all the people from East Germany, they all like migrated to West Germany because that's where all, you know, that's where all of the opportunity was. So all the people from West Germany were like, dude, let's go throw parties in East Germany. And like there's just no man's land over there now, like all these party spots.
Yeah, I remember in Berlin, it's like over here you might go to a club that's kind of designed to look kind of warehousey, but over there it actually is a warehouse. It smells like a warehouse, and it's hot.
Yeah, and that was like the first time that I partied till like 10 a.m. in a club, like inside a club, like leave a club, and it's, you know, daylight out.
Yeah.
Like, what the? How long we been in there for? It's like, that was amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm blanking on the name of it right now. It's like arguably the world's best club. What the fuck is the name?
It's Berghain.
Yes. Did you make it there by any chance?
I didn't. And so
we attempted to go there, but I mean, it was literally like a 3-day line.
Right.
Tried to bullshit our way in there. It wasn't happening.
So it's Berghain is like the techno club, and then Panorama Bar is like the house and deep house club. I've never been there, and we kind of just inexperienced, like we just blew it. When we were there, we basically like got word through couchsurfing.com. We like met this person, and they're like, oh, tonight's the Ringbahn party. And the Ringbahn is this train that goes in a circle around Berlin. And like at 10 p.m., like 2,000 people showed up to this train with like DJ booth, like strapped to their backpack, and like just like all is just going to be this fucking shit show on this train.
Are the proprietors of the train aware of this?
No, not at all.
Okay.
And so like
it's like a flash club.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. And it just like immediately got shut down. And so we ended up just kind of like rambling around with all these locals, just going to like we went to like an underground ping pong tournament, some like just fucking weird shit, man. But we're just so involved, and we're just like so like just taking in this culture of like completely new stuff.
We went on a pub crawl in Berlin. I'm just completely unrelated side story, but it's just hilarious. And it's me and my buddy, and he's completely smashed beyond belief.
Yeah.
And he just like completely like got shut out by these group of girls that he's trying to talk to. So he's like in this kind of mode. And we're walking through these like residential areas. Mind you, both of us, it's our first time there. Somehow he gets like drunk psychic understanding to go and pound on this door.
Yeah.
And it's just this like random door in this like residential neighborhood. I'm like, Mike, what the fuck are you doing? Like, what is this? And he's like, just beats on a door. And then this little door, like little, what do you call those things? Or like somebody looks through a little password thing. Yeah. Opens up, and like this dude pops his head in there, and my buddy's like, hey, drink, you want a drink? And he's like, looks at us, he's like, okay, closes it, opens the door, and we walk in. And there's a bar in there.
Yeah.
There's a full-on party, and I remember that because he said ping pong. There was like ping pong playing in there as well.
That was like the steez, dude. Like that was like exactly like.
To this day, I have no idea how we figured out where this place was.
We like went with these locals, knocked on the door, and it was like the full-on password situation with like the little thing, and then we like come in, and there's just like 30 people like surrounding this like 2 ping pong table like setup and just going crazy, and we're just like, what the fuck are we doing here? Like this is this is insane, but it's also amazing because you're just like
fucking Germans.
Yeah, fucking Germans.
So let's flash forward here. So we obviously know where the twist in the story is gonna go. Like you're gonna end up at Burning Man. Yeah. And everything's gonna change.
Yeah.
When did that happen? Fill me in on the time between school is done and the time you end up with your first interaction with burner culture.
Okay, so we came graduated 2010. At the same time, Marbs, who's one of the partners in Desert Hearts, he graduated from college, and then another partner, Ryan, aka Deep Jesus, he graduated from college, and we all basically just moved home back to Encinitas, which is North County, San Diego. And we're all just like living with our parents, but we're like, you know, let's like do something, like, you know, we're back home, like let's throw a party. And so we came up with this idea to throw a party called Jungle. And the backyard of my house growing up is like, my dad has just always been obsessed with palm trees and jungle and just like insane plants. And so our backyard is like this like 30-foot tall jungle of palm trees and just every kind of weird plant back there. And so we used to cut down these trees and use them for all of our parties. And so we started doing that, and we bring in...
Wait, hold on. Well, you cut down the trees to use for parties?
Like, we would, like, cut off, like branches.
Okay.
And, like, just, like, basically just, like, all, like, the palm fronds. Like, any of the old ones that were kind of, like, you know, they started wavering. My dad would...
use them for decoration.
Uh-huh,
I was trying to figure out what you used them for.
Oh, yeah. So we would just deck out the whole, like, bar. And it was just, like, this little shit bar in North County on the beach. Like, had no business throwing a party there, but that we're just like, that's the only venue. It's like our friends are all like, everyone's pretty much graduating college and moving back home. Like, we just need something to do. And
there's a pretty significant music culture in North County.
Yeah. But not really like house music. I don't think there's, you know, the belly ups right there.
Yeah.
And that was like,
it just seems like every other raver I know is from North County.
Yeah. I don't know. It just like the crew that we started with was like not part of like the rave scene or anything like that, or like in the burner scene whatsoever. But you know, we knew a bunch of artists just because Marbs is like this incredible artist, and he's always been really into painting and everything. And so he had his network. We would bring in all these artists. We'd bring in like vendors and just create this like completely different atmosphere than what the bar was used to. So we started throwing this party, and that was like the only place that you could hear house and techno in San Diego pretty much. Like, we didn't really even know about Bar Dynamite.
Yeah.
And to be honest, like, it just like the scene was, there wasn't really a scene in San Diego around that time.
What year was this?
This was 2010.
Yeah. I mean, the just even the music alone. I remember, I think it was around 2010 that I started going to parties and actually hearing the music that I pretty much mostly listened to. Yeah. Either alone and then be called gay for listening to, or like at a couple of clubs in downtown, and that was it.
Right.
Now it's like all over the fucking radio. It's insane.
Yeah. And because that, like, you know, there was Voyeur going on back then, and that was like, but it was like banging hard electro, and you know, we were all into like house, deep house, techno. And then we got wind of this party that was going on in North Park called Moonshake, and so we're like, what, dude, there's like another crew throwing fucking parties, let's go check that shit out. We went down there, and like as soon as we walk in, Lee Reynolds is playing Art Department Vampire Nightclub shit. Yeah. And we're just like, holy fuck, like music that we like. Oh my god.
Was this at a venue?
This was at this little tiny bar called Kadan.
Yeah. I remember Kadan. Yeah.
Yeah, that total like.
They had a Thursday night.
Like the dance floor was like as big as this room. Yeah. And they had like all these like dungeon like things, like medieval things on the walls.
Yeah, that bar, it was like the venue was from another time period. Totally. They just like, all right, fuck it, you guys can do your
shit. Totally. Yeah. And so that's when we're like, okay, you guys throw, you know, like we'll do our parties like every other Thursday, and then like you guys throw your parties like every other Friday, so then we're not like, you know, coinciding with each other, and we can kind of just like keep it cohesive. Yeah. And so, like, every time that, like, they would throw a party, all our crew would go down there, and then every time that we'd throw a party, vice versa.
Yeah. To kind of feed each other. And that was a conscious decision.
Yeah, definitely. because we're just like, for the good of the scene, we want to like have parties every weekend that we can go to. We don't want to like double up on a party and then not have a party to go to next week.
That's interesting.
And so like, yeah, I don't know. I've always been like a huge proponent of, just like total cooperation within the scene, especially since there like wasn't a scene really. It's like, it's really important to me that, we could all work together and create something together, because that's how things grow. That's how shit works.
Like, you've always been very aware of that. Like, do you think the majority of your crew was aware of it, or did they just see it kind of like, all right, we're gonna?
I think our crew has always been like very supportive of that.
Like, if we go and the place looks busier, more people will come, and that's gonna help everybody.
Yeah, and it's just like, if our crew meets this new crew, then like now we have a fucking super crew. And then that's ultimately like Jungle and Moonshake merged, and so like we all became just like friends with everyone. And then one of the fans from Moonshake, Christoph, he's like this like long time Moon Triber. And Moon Tribe's like the original desert scene, really. Like, they've been throwing parties. They just celebrated, I think, like their 22-year anniversary of like just throwing desert parties under the full moon. He's like, he would come to the jungle parties, he would come to the Moonshake parties, and he was like, all right, I'm gonna throw a desert party. And he invited me, my brother, Marbs, Deep Jesus, Lee Reynolds, and all of us out there to go play his party. And then at the same time, there was like all this other like total variety of music, but it was that weekend that we all like really like synced and we're like, yo, this is the fucking, like, we all have the same taste in music, like what we want to do. Let's throw a fucking super party with, the Jungle crew, Moonshake crew, and then Christoph's got the Desert crew. And that's when we started, like, we're like, all right, like, what do we call this thing? And we're like throwing around names. We're like, all right, what about like psychedelic desert fucks? Just like, oh, I don't know if that's marketable, but it is funny. And then we finally came up with Desert Hearts, and we're just like, holy shit, that name's good.
It is a good name. It is an amazing name.
And so, yeah, that's like, we went out there and we threw our first party, and we're like watching the weather report all week. And it's like, this is in November 2012, and we're watching the weather report all week. It's like perfect weather all week. And then it's like Friday, Saturday, Sunday, lows of 22 degrees with high wind, and we're just like, oh my god, we're fucked.
burnerpodcast.com.
Okay, very, very, very quick break. So, such a quick break, I swear, a little quick one. I already announced this, I think, on the last episode, but this is the next big one that's coming up, that by the time you hear this show, you might actually have the time to plan for and go to, if you have access to immediate travel to the Middle East. Midburn, that's the short for Middle Eastern Burn. Midburn is happening May 20th through the 24th, and that's in Israel. It is the first regional event in the Middle East. It's going to be just phenomenal. God, I would kill to go. That's definitely on my bucket list. I know it's on Alpi's bucket list, our online editor, because her mission in life is to go to every single regional. If you want more information about that, go to midburn.org. When you arrive there, you'll notice that it's in Hebrew, but there's a button to switch to English if you can't read Hebrew. Hebrew. Shalom. Anyway, hey, another announcement that was also on the last one, but it's important to keep you guys abreast of it. Fundraiser season is upon us. Make sure to check Facebook for theme camps and art projects and other Black Rock City-bound activities that you can get involved in. The regional project this year at the Burn, the main Burn, is the Midway. And more info can be found at facebook.com/BurningManMidway. Make sure to check if your region is doing some sort of a project, if you have some people that you live closer to that might be getting involved with Midway, and go help them out. Go give them money, or if you can't give them money, go pick up a hammer and go build some shit. let's make this thing absolutely amazing. And I will see you guys out there. I'm involved with the Midway Project, and I am so excited about the burn this year. It's going to be absolutely amazing. Final quick announcement. Check out this little documentary that I had the privilege of watching a couple of weeks ago called Little Saints. Such a cute little name. Little Saints is about a Catholic magic mushroom ritual that they do in Mexico, some far off place. It's a really fascinating and interesting documentary about mushrooms. If you are interested in psilocybin, it was such a great experience to watch this in the theater because it was like a fuck ton of burners and then like some UCSD students. So it was really, really fascinating. It is an independently produced documentary, so it's not maybe something that you can so easily check out, but if you go to littlesaintsmovie.com, there is a link to their Facebook page, and they'll be making announcements on which cities will be having screenings. So they just recently left Southern California. I believe they had some shows in Oakland. So just kind of stay tuned to that. Go like that page, and we are working on getting the filmmaker, the director, the producer, wonderful man by the name of Oliver, on the show. And we're probably going to talk for like an hour about mushrooms. So look forward to that coming up pretty soon. So anyway, let's get back to this interview with Mikey Lion. I'll stop interrupting.
Welcome home.
So hold on, let me skip back here for a second. So you haven't been to Burning Man yet at this point?
No, sorry. Okay. I got it. Let's skip back here. So we were doing jungle.
Mm-hmm.
And then we were doing jungle for about maybe 6 months at this point.
Mm-hmm.
2011, I just gone to Coachella for the sixth year in a row.
Mm-hmm.
I've always been I was always just the kid. I was just oh, fucking Coachella,
yeah.
Coachella.
I know I made a lot of them.
And then just Coachella's the best weekend of the year, no hands down. And we've had this friend, one of our best friends, was just dude, go to Lightning in a Bottle with me this year. I promise it'll be your awakening,
Mm-hmm.
And we went, bought our tickets. It was basically the whole crew, the whole jungle crew. We all bought tickets to Lightning in a Bottle. We went out there, and that was fucking mind blown again. Same capacity as when I had my mind blown at Daft Punk. It was what the fuck? Everyone's wearing costumes all the time. This party is just nonstop kind of thing. Festival and renegade stages and
What was the biggest thing that stood out to you?
Just the free kind of just the vibe and the love and just the variety of people that you come across. Because Coachella, it's very, very to the point.
Mm-hmm.
You're here for just musical acts, and then just all these rules. You can't take the beer out of the garden, and at LIB it was there's people smoking bong loads on the dance floor,
yeah.
or fucking we could just bring our own case of beer on the dance floor or whatever. And I just remember being this is fucking this is the best party in the world going on, that and then when I was having this kind of epiphany out there, just an older woman was just you think this is good? You need to fucking go to Burning Man. This is a fucking little fart compared to Burning Man.
Yeah.
And it's what? What the fuck? Are you serious? I've had friends go to Burning Man, and just always seemed such a commitment kind of thing.
Yeah.
And
it is.
But we literally soon as we got home from LIB, we all just bought our tickets to Burning Man.
Yeah.
And then planned all summer. We're all right, we're doing the fucking jungle camp.
How many of you are there going?
This was there's 8 of us.
Yeah.
And it was me, Marbs, Deep Jesus, my girlfriend, My friend Mikey Wada, who's now like head of our Burning Man camp, like our proper one, the Pile Palace. But yeah, we went out there and we're just like, all right, we're all virgins. We like have this camp plan. We done all our research and everything, and we just get our fucking asses kicked. Like,
Yes.
just destroyed. And
Do tell how.
so I just remember like, so we had one monkey hut that was, 10 by, I think it was like 10 by 15. And that was literally like our only shade structure that we had for like 8 of us.
Okay.
We had like our kitchen in there. We had like no like real plan for like our trash or like anything. And I just remember Deep Jesus shows up on Wednesday, and we'd been there since Monday, and our camp is just like fucking wrecked. Just like, and we're all like laying around on the ground, just like frying, just like, what? Like, and he's just like, what the fuck happened to our camp? like we're like, you don't even know, dude. You don't even know what's going on here. It's like, it's anarchy. Like, we just got our fucking asses handed to us. And at that week, like, basically halfway through the camp, we devolved from jungle camp into camp burnt turd. And we're just like, we're not ready for this. Yeah. Like, we never had any chance.
We're laughing at it right now.
Yeah.
You're having a good time.
Oh, we were having a fucking great time for sure. Like, we were like, but yeah, we were so unprepared. Like, we had tents, but no shade structure besides this monkey hut. And like, the entire place is just in like disarray and just destroyed.
Let me ask something. Over the years, have you had people sort of like fall out of the crew?
Yeah, for sure.
Because it seems like you guys have this thing in common about like what is the kind of like the burner thought process, which is just like, fuck it, bring it, let's just see what happens.
Yeah.
That seems to be like the common thread with the people that you've sort of lasted with the longest.
Right. And so, yeah, I think like, we've definitely gone separate ways with just people that were in our camp.
Yeah.
Or,
some people just little by little fall off. They're like, I'm not into the desert.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And you can tell who's cut out for it and who's not. And, we just kind of like, we only want to surround ourselves with like the best of the best. People that are going to like elevate us, people that are going to like be on our same wavelength humor wise, or, just like there's no point in spending, especially at Burning Man, time with someone that you don't want to.
Absolutely.
And so we got our asses kicked at our first burn, but it was still just like the most unbelievable experience of our lives. Total game changer, like life changed everything.
What was sort of like one thing that you remember that you'd never expected was a way to be that at Burning Man changed?
I think just like the openness and definitely our wardrobes. Definitely just like how we express ourselves, and we, I don't think any of us in the crew feels weird about like expressing themselves in like a creative way that's like against society's norms anymore. Like there's no even thought about it. It's like, this is how we choose to like be. This is how we choose to like portray ourselves to other people. It's like, this is us. It's like, this is the best thing ever.
Were there things, do you think, that you were censoring yourself about before you discovered this community?
Yeah, definitely.
Like what?
I think just about like loving one another. And I'd never been anywhere that like you fucking just hug everyone.
Yeah.
And you genuinely mean it. Like, you genuinely can dance, or like in the craziest shit that you want to do, or just wear whatever you want to do, or do.
No, I can tell you that was
anything.
a proper hug when you arrived, because
Yeah.
I still do get from time to time, like, and kind of sense people. Some people just are not so crazy about it, but you can pretty much sense like when it's like a forced hug
Definitely.
versus like we're gonna connect right now.
Cheers to that.
Salute. Eye contact. Can I say, by the way, how happy I am that you are drinking? Because for anybody who's been listening to every episode of the show, I think that they might have started to think that I'm only trying to get the girls drunk.
Okay,
Because
yeah.
every time I offer wine to guys, the guys are like, "No, I'm good."
Oh yeah.
But the girls are like, "Yeah, we'll take wine."
Yeah, definitely. No, I'm happy that you offered up some wine for sure.
Good times. So this was 2010.
This was 2011.
11. Okay, and then Kadan was.
And we'd been going to Moonshake before that.
Okay. So you had a little taste.
Yeah. And we had been throwing Jungle before LIB, which is in May, and then Burning Man's at the end of August.
Now, is your sound evolving at this point? Is it sounding more like, for lack of a better description, burnery?
I don't know. I think there's a lot of, it's always evolving, definitely. I don't think my music is like necessarily like burner music. I think it definitely works at the burn. But I have like inspirations from all kinds of things.
Yeah.
There's a lot of like hip hop influence in the music that I play. A lot of kind of like, I don't know, just like that that hip hop attitude. That's kind of like, it's a little like tougher and like
swag.
A little, yeah. I don't really like that word, but
what's wrong with swag?
I don't know. Swag always just like, oh yeah, like swagged up. Like so swag. I don't know. I really like. I don't really like swag at all.
Okay.
But it just kind of like that gangster attitude is like so. That's like underground hip hop to me, like 90s hip hop, and that's like my roots. So even though I'm like the whitest kid growing up in Encinitas, which is like one of the nicest neighborhoods in San Diego, it's like I was always just like into Wu-Tang Clan, and like
this is something we talk about a lot on Crappy Awesome, the other show that I was at. Like it's mind blowing what a massive impact hip hop had on all these white kids around the country, around the world.
Yeah.
And that's why, like, to this day, I'm always like, what is it about what they were communicating that spoke to you? And we know, like, with Wu-Tang, you had said it's the culture and what they created, which I completely get. Like, you saw it as an art piece, whereas there are other people that might listen to it and they're listening full on to specifically the lyrics and how it's touching their personal lives.
Right. I think just like, a combination of just like the lyrics and the flow and the rhyming and like kind of like the struggle a lot of time, is just like, it's just touching. Like it just, I don't know. It's beautiful to me. Like Notorious B.I.G., was like, he's one of my favorites ever.
Yeah. So, I mean, but there's somebody who spent a great deal of time telling you about his swag.
Yeah, that's true. I don't know. Just when like it's more intellectual though, that was what really like got me into it.
Yeah.
Like Del the Funky Homo Sapien is like one of like the most insane lyricists ever. And like his vocabulary is just like out of this world. It's insane. And that was, it's like, okay, this is, they're gangster, but at the same time, they're fucking geniuses. And like the beats were so good, and yeah, that's just, I don't know.
Yeah.
Hip hop was just like my first love for sure. I went back recently and listened to Bone Thugs and Harmony, East 1999 Eternal. And like that was always one of my favorite albums like ever, like top 5 hip hop album for me.
I gotta tell you, to this day, I'm conflicted about whether or not they should have been in the category of hip hop.
Okay.
I mean, it's definitely like it's roots in hip hop, but I mean, to me, what Bone and DJ Unique were doing was almost like, I don't know. To me, it almost feels like it's the same degrees of separation away as like Detroit house from hip hop.
Okay, yeah.
Which like was like kind of roots, it kind of born in that same kind of field, but yeah, I don't know, the harmonizing and everything. I don't know. That's always been a thought that I've had.
Okay. So now that I'm like, you know, Desert Hearts is like this like all encompassing like love culture and just like kind of like love movement that's like going on. I went back and I listened to East 1999 and literally like every single song they kill like 20 people. Like fucking like there's like, you know, like I pull out my Mac, fuck, you fucking dead bitch. Like every fucking song, and I'm just like back then it was the fucking you fucking dead bitch, you know, like I'm, you know,
I feel the exact same way.
And I listened to it, I'm just like, oh my god, this is fucking
horrible.
This is bad. This is bad to be like,
why didn't we like this back then?
Teaching people this and like listen to the entire record. Yeah. I'm like front to back. I think they kill like estimating over 200 people throughout the fucking album. And the last song on the album is like, see you at the crossroads where you've been lonely. Yeah. And it's like, can anybody tell me why we die? I'm like,
Bone, obviously.
Like, you just killed 200 motherfucking people, and you're wondering why people are after you? Yeah. Like, why you die? You fucking kidding me? It's like pissed. It's like what the fuck?
Yeah. That's something we spent because it's one of the things that we talk about a lot too is like the image of the gun.
Yeah.
Where I mean, my thought on it has always been that it's very much been like the Andy Warhol, where it's initially when the image of the gun was introduced into hip hop, it had symbolism meaning. Right. It was like, you know, I'm gonna kill you with my lyrics. Right. But then somebody, you know, then eventually we got into the gangster rap phase where it became real. Mm-hmm. But even then, gangster rap, like it's funny, like looking back on the gangster rap era, I see now the genius and the street reporting behind it. Like there was a sincerity to it. Like one of my favorite songs is from that era is Lil Ghetto Boy with Dre and Snoop.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
And when I was listening to it back then, I just liked the beat and like the flow of the lyrics, even if I didn't understand the message. Mm-hmm. But the message was like, it was a movie. Like basically the first verse was Snoop and he is playing the main character of the song as a young man who at the end of the verse goes to jail. The second verse is Dre and he's playing the same character as an older man coming out of jail. And then the third verse is like the lesson that you learn from all this. Yeah. And then, so, I mean, there was really amazing shit they were doing back then. After that period, which is I think like the era of Bone, for example, that's when it just turned into let's show off that we're badasses. Right. That's when I think like the photocopy of the photocopy started. Uh-huh. And like then another generation goes by, then you just have kids talking about killing each other who've never even, you know, seen a gun. Yeah. And it's funny, I agree. I've had the same thought process when I go back. I'm like, God, what was it about this that we liked? Yeah.
You know, I heard this like, I read this thing online and it was from like an anonymous hip hop executive, like music executive at like a major label type thing. And I mean, this could be complete bullshit, but it's, you know, it's an interesting subject. He said like, early 90s when hip hop was, you know, in its like beautiful heydays, like just like it was like street poetry and just like super intellectual. I guess like him and just like all of these like major level executives were all brought into this room and they're like in this room and there's like these like Secret Service looking people that no one knew. And they're like all like wielding like huge like guns and stuff. And they were basically told like, okay, you guys are now going to start promoting gangster rap. Yeah. and we're gonna fucking like everything that comes out is gonna be like about fucking killing each other and gangsterism and just like.
I remember the story.
And you know, whether or not that's true, it's just like, you know, you don't want to believe that that's true because it's like fucking wow, it's like culture killing.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just like an interesting subject.
I read that story. I feel like it's reaching a little bit.
Yeah, totally. And I'm not.
It is interesting. I agree.
I'm not one for like real conspiracy theories so much. But yeah, it was just, you know. Let's
get back though. Okay, we got.
Okay.
We didn't get off subject. We were completely on subject. Listeners, that was meant on purpose. So skip back here. So you come back from the burn. You survive your post-burn blues.
Mm-hmm.
What happens next?
So we came back and we're like, holy fuck, we need to get involved in the burner community. San Diego, you know, Utopia, which is like San Diego's regional burn, was like right around the corner. We're like, okay, let's start planning. How do we like get involved in this community? And we're like, okay, we fucked up royally at the burn. Jungle Camp was a disaster. Let's host the Jungle Bar at Utopia. And that was like our very first experience of like running like a proper bar and like just giving back and actually feeling part of the community. And one of the best things that happened on that weekend was my dad, who, you know, I've always been extremely close with my parents. I was like, you know, so blown away by Bernie. I'm taking you to Utopia. Like, you're coming with me. And my dad is like, he's pretty conservative. But he's got an open mind.
He's conservative politically.
Right.
Okay.
But he has an open mind for sure. And
would you say he's like more like libertarian?
He's definitely, he's libertarian for sure.
Gotcha.
And so we take him and like he proceeds to just fucking get shit-faced. Like shit-faced drunk. And my dad is one of the most intense people that you've ever met in your life. He doesn't have any concept of talking to you. He just yells.
Yeah.
Like, that's just how he is. He just like, oh my God. And so he's fucking... And then, like, during that time, we start... we're like, oh, Dad, you want to, like, take some mushrooms?
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, I haven't taken these in 25 years. And we're like, all right, like, let's fucking try this. Like, see what happens. And so, first night, my dad is just fucking blacked out. And he's just, like, yelling. And our bar is just fucking blown out because, like, people are walking up. And my dad's like, like, fuck yeah. Just like, oh my God, like, self-expression, dude. Yeah. Self-expression. We're like, what the fuck, Dad? Like, what are you doing? And he's like, literally, like, grabbing hippies, like, by the neck. And just like, are you a fucking pussy-ass Charger fan? Or are you a Raider fan? like, there are people just fucking running for the hills, like, I don't even like football. Just like running for it.
I don't even know what sport you're talking about.
Yeah, exactly. Like, Dad, you can't fucking do that here. You're just like, self-expression, bro. Like, all right.
Wow, mushrooms made him do that. Huh?
He's just tripping, yeah. And like, he was like, would see his shadow in like a light, and he would like run back and forth like, check out my shadow, it's growing and it's getting smaller. We're like, all right, you're going home for day 2. Kicked him out. We're like, all right, you're out of here. And that was like when we did like our second night. Our bar was just like going off. Like, we're like, all right, we don't have a fucking lunatic on our hands, like a child in a fucking 50-year-old's body going nuts. So
right now, you just made me like miss Utopia. Like I want to be at Utopia.
Yeah, right. So that was like our first time where we like did something where we were camping out and we like gave back, learned how to kind of run a bar, and then that next year, we all went back to LIB again, and I actually like at the first LIB, I made it my goal for the year as a DJ to play the Woogie stage. Then like in 2012.
Why the Woogie stage?
Well, the Woogie's like the house mecca at LIB.
Okay.
And it's just like the Woogie is like home away from home. Basically, it's like at that point that was like the best stage that I've ever partied at. Just nonstop good music all weekend long, and so I was like, all right, if I can play the Woogie, like that's a fucking massive accomplishment. And just somehow I like kind of finagled my way into talking with the Woogie people who like booked the stage, and ended up getting a slot at like, you know, like 3 p.m. on Saturday. And this was like the same weekend that so there's a crew in San Diego called the Super Kids, and the Super Kids are like the party pros of San Diego. Like, it's just this like, it's a secret Facebook group that's like, it's basically just like everyone's beautiful, everyone's amazing, everyone's like spiritual warrior, like, and they all know how to party fucking better than anyone. And you know, we had like friends of friends who were in the Super Kids, and they all just like came out in droves for my set. And when you have this like crew, I think I started the dance floor, there was like 50 people on the dance floor, and you know, like 30 of them were Super Kids. They're those type of people that people just fucking feed off of like crazy. They're like the 5 people that you look at in front of you. And so, but you have 30 of them. And now, and then that was like when it started, and then there was like probably like 60, 75 party starters on the dance floor, like throughout it. And like by the end of my set, there's like 500 people on the dance floor. Wow. And that was like, at that point, that was like one of the biggest moments of my life. Just like, holy shit, I just fucking rocked that. Yeah. I can do this. Like I have the talent to like connect with people through DJing and make them dance and make them feel something when I play. So yeah, that was really the exact moment when I was like, all right, I can fucking do this. Now, at this point, are you doing any DJing in the club scene at all, or is it just festival circuit? Yeah, for sure. Okay. And what's the difference between those fields? Just you know, they both have like their place. The club scene is definitely more. It makes you're like, I'm able to support myself through DJing. Because of like getting to play club gigs and stuff like that. It's a little harder to, you kind of have to have, just know who you're playing for, like when you're playing at a club gig, and kind of like tailor your set to, you know, clubbers. Whereas at a festival, people are just fucking, you know, they're blank slate. Like they're just, you know, they'll listen to anything, and you can really, really connect and dive deeper when you're playing a festival gig. Yeah, that's always been my thing about, because for a long time, pretty much the only music that I really wanted to get into, like trance, like I could really get into it only at the club scene. But I just really didn't like a lot of the people that I... Totally. And I worked in the club scene, and it's just, it's a little darker. Definitely. That's why finding this scene was like heaven. Like, oh my God, you guys like the music that I like, and you're not douchebags? This is awesome. So... You know, the club, everything has its place within dance music culture. And that's why Berlin was so refreshing to me, was because, like, you know, the majority of their of their culture is based in clubs, and you know, it's a total clubbing culture.
Yeah.
But the people that you find in a Berlin club are like the exact opposite of who you find in like a San Diego downtown club. They're like, they are like the blank slate type people who are just like, okay, like, let's hear what you got.
Yeah.
Whereas here, you know, San Diego has like 3 potential clubs that you can DJ like house music at.
Yeah.
So it's just different. It's just totally different. But yeah, festivals, I see myself as like, you know, definitely I think I connect with people more at festivals, especially because now I throw one.
Yeah, so let's jump ahead to that. Yeah. So you guys, you had told briefly the story about the first time you were out there in the desert doing Desert Hearts.
Right. So yeah, we Moonshake crew, Jungle crew, and then the Desert crew.
And how did you guys have meeting after meeting to divvy up responsibilities?
Definitely.
Like, you took it from a very professional angle.
Yeah. We've always basically had like, we do meetings every week, like once a week, either like Tuesday or Wednesday.
And there's one today, by the way.
There's one today, right? Yeah, for sure.
For this show. Sorry, guys.
Yeah. And so we went from, you know, just doing club, you know, like little bar parties. We threw a party at Belly Up. But then, yeah, we went out there to throw our first Desert Hearts party. And the Friday of the party, our sound guy goes MIA. And just phones off. And we're just like, oh my God, this is not happening. You know, like, what do we do? And I actually called up Sammy Bliss from the Woogie stage. I'm like, what do I do? Like, we need sound now. And he was like, all right, I'll make a phone call. And he called Brad Funkworks, who was the guy who was doing the Woogie stage sound. And I got on the phone with Brad. He's like, just give me the yes or no. And I'm like, all right, we're pulling the trigger. Let's do it. He's like, all right, I'll be there in fucking 4 hours.
Oh my God.
Like, wow. You're a fucking pro.
When was hold on, what hour before the show was this where your sound guy went?
This was about, this was about 4 p.m. on Friday.
Wow. And this guy's dropping everything he's doing to come out. Oh my God, that's insane.
And, and that's why Brad Funkworks, not only is his sound just like, in my opinion, the best on the West Coast, his team is just the fucking most diehard. Like, Funkworks is part of our family now.
Yeah.
And it's just like loyalty, you know? Like, they dropped everything that they're doing to come fucking save our party.
Yeah.
And then
for listeners who don't know, what is the importance of the sound guy? Because I obviously know everything. I mean, I'm saying for the listeners.
Yeah.
I'm looking up for
so the difference between, you know, a good sound, like a great sound guy, and you know, your average sound guy, is they just fucking care. Like, the Funkworks team, at all hours of the festival or in our parties, they are out there on their iPad, like, just tuning.
Yeah.
Like, constant tuning. And especially in the desert, like, the sound can take a beating. But yeah, they're just like the proest of the pro. They're all like sound engineers. You know, there's people with Function One systems that don't know what the fuck they're doing. They just like have a Function One system, and they're, you know, they're like, they just turn it on and then leave.
Yeah.
And we've dealt with that in the past, and like, they would just turn their system on and leave. And
we deal with that a lot in the hip hop scene.
Yeah. And so that was like when we really learned the importance of like, okay, you know, whatever the budget is for sound, it's like that, like the sound system at Desert Hearts is literally the first thing on the budget.
Yeah.
It's fucking, all right, write it off. It's happening. Like, we are getting the best possible sound at our festival. No questions asked. Don't even think twice about it. We're doing it.
So speaking of that, I mean, obviously, aside from your first one, I'm assuming you finished your first one, and then now you had like a more clear vision of what the festival is.
Okay, so sound guy goes MIA.
Mm-hmm.
Bunkworks comes in, and the generator guys that we had can't figure out the generator until like 6 a.m. on the first night. At 6 a.m. Saturday morning.
Mm.
And at this point, it's fucking freezing. It's 22 degrees with like high wind, and we have no music, so we're just like basically huddling around this fire, like trying to survive.
Yeah.
My friend Mateo's playing the ukulele, just like trying to keep people entertained. And then music finally goes on at 6 a.m. and it was just like, I remember I went to bed because like I was like, you know, those like angry naps that you know, when you're like, you can't take it anymore. Like, I'm fucking over this. I'm going to bed.
So there's a crowd here at this point?
Yeah.
And they're just like
there's
hanging
like,
out waiting?
There's like 100 people there.
Okay.
Like, just hanging out. And ended up being like this blessing in disguise because, you know, here we are. There's 3 different crews here. No one's like, you know, no one's like really knows each other like that well. It was kind of like, okay, we have 3 like-minded crews.
Yeah.
And then so the first night, like you had no choice but to sit around the fire. And so like everyone just became like this fucking, like that was originally like the night that like the Desert Hearts family was born.
Mm.
And then like Saturday was freezing cold all day, all night. But then like Sunday morning it was just like this like beautiful sunrise, where Deep Jesus was playing, and it was like the Deep Jesus Sunday sermon was like what we were calling it.
That's awesome.
And like that was like the moment that like it was like we fucking are like victory lap time, you know, like this is it, like we fucking did it, like just massive celebration going on.
Yeah.
And I remember someone telling me like that morning, just like, you guys are going to be the next LIB. And I'm like, what? Like, what are you talking about? Like
they said that in the first one, huh?
Yeah. Like that morning, someone's just like,
because I can tell you, I have that sense.
Yeah. Fuck. Yeah. I don't know. Someone said that morning, and we were just like flabbergasted, just like, are you serious? Like, yes, this was the best like moment of our life pretty much, like going on right here. And like the vibe was just like electric and magic and just like beautiful. And that was really when we're like, all right, let's like really sit down and start thinking about like what we want to do with this. And we did a New Year's like collaboration party right after that, like 2 months after that, with Tropical, so we called that Tropical Hearts.
Yeah.
That had 400 people there for New Year's. And then we threw our first Desert Hearts Spring Festival in the end of March of 2013. And that had 900 people there. So it was like boom, boom, boom. And then we had another like Tropical Hearts camp out, and that had like 1,300 people there.
Yeah.
And it just like the vibe that it was at that Tropical Hearts one that I like, it really clicked with me that like, holy shit, like we are having like a cultural impact on people. And like people are like asking me to take pictures with them.
Yeah.
And like dude, I think I just like, you know, became part of this fucking like became part of like this movement that we're leading of like just like love and music and, you know, culture and just self-expression. And since then it's like, then we had our We had our 1 year anniversary that following November, and that was like, 1,500 people, and we did that one at La Jolla. That was like our first big one where we did like headliner like I think we had like 5 big headliners, and our previous parties had been only local DJs. Yeah. So
when you set out the parties, like what is your North Star? Like what's your thought process about how this is going to be different than all the other events that people might pick this year?
Okay, so we are pretty much the only festival that is completely tailored to house and techno. And, we're one stage, one vibe. Where, every other festival, even if they're smaller than us or whatever, they spread their crowd out amongst like 3 stages or, down tempo lounge or like bass stage, house stage, drum and bass stage. And it's like, you lose this vibe, this like cohesive vibe of the party because there's like, there's so much going on that it doesn't work. And for us, we're like, dude, let's just fucking strip it down to the basics. Let's just have one stage and have it play continuously for 72 hours nonstop. And we'll program it so that the music is like, trippy deep house, kind of like just trippy like house music in the mornings, into like, daytime house, tech house in the afternoon, into like, trippy sunset house kind of music, like deep house, into like darker tech house at night, into like banging techno in the middle of the night, and then back to like the trip house thing. So it's like, it's like programming the roller coaster, but it's programming the DJs who are going to play that kind of music to make the roller coaster ride. So that's like one of the things that we spend ridiculous amount of time on, is just like, how do we program the DJs in what order that it's going to make sense? It's like almost planning like a DJ set, like, but for a 72-hour long period.
What's been the biggest surprise out of this process? Other than the holy shit, we're making a cultural impact. What has been something you really did not expect?
I never really expected it like to grow this big. And we just kind of like, we just started doing it for fun and for like love. Like, our budgets are just like holy shit, how did this budget go from like this to fucking this over like the course of a year? And like, everyone fucking in the sun thinks that like we're making like a killing off of all these parties and everything, but like we're like barely fucking surviving, like just like barely getting by. Like if it wasn't for like the DJ gigs and stuff, like we would all be, I think there's only me, my brother, and Lee Reynolds are the only ones who are like doing this full-time DJing. Everyone else has like full-time jobs. But everyone's like starting to phase them out. It's like, this is like starting to actually like work. And
so when you get 20,000 people, are you still going to keep it one stage?
So I don't think we're ever going to go to 20,000 people. We made a like conscious decision on this one, that we're going to cap it at 2,000 tickets sold. And even though the venue that we do it at could probably hold like 5,000, we don't have really any intention of growing it to that level.
There's going to be a demand for it though. You're going to deny people? Yeah,
I think so. I think it's just going to have to be like one of the things that's like just buy your ticket early.
Well, because you know what's going to turn into? It's going to turn into how can, tickets are going to start getting scalped. They're going to be costing a lot more.
Yeah.
People that actually are passionate about it are going to have to pay double the price just to be able to go.
Yeah.
And that's going to happen. I mean, this is a reality of the situation. Right, it's not a matter. There's no 100% win on either side.
Right.
I'm just wondering if that's a discussion that's been had amongst you guys.
We do realize that, and we've always encouraged like, so we have like a family email list, that we've always encouraged like all of our, you know, our closest people, our closest like diehard Desert Hearts people, to be on this email list. And through that, we've always given like first priority on tickets to people who are on this email list. And so, you know, that's our short-term plan. I don't really, you know, it's going to be interesting because
that's an understatement.
Yeah. It's like we're already like, we're like 200 tickets away from selling out on this next one.
You guys are getting big attention from
definitely
parts of the country and the world that I think you really didn't. It's kind of...
Yeah. One thing that like, you know, as we started Desert Hearts Records in last July. So July 2014. And you know, I've been making music for like, you know, 3 years or so at this point, and you know, sending out my tracks, and my tracks aren't getting anything, and just like so frustrating. And it's like,
what do you produce on?
Ableton.
Okay.
And then just like I have a bunch of analog gear now and stuff. You know, we're doing that, like, you know, doing this whole thing, and it's like, dude, fuck that. Like, why am I going to release this on someone else's label when, like, just like we started throwing the parties, I have, like, no idea what we're doing.
Yeah.
Let's just fucking do it, and, like, we'll just learn it as we go.
Yeah.
One of the things that, like, came with the record label was, like, you know, like, hiring a PR company, just because, like, you really need a, like, PR to get your record label out there and in the eyes of people.
Yeah.
And, you know, a lot of the story behind the record label was the festival. And so a lot of things that came out like about like through PR and like articles and stuff like that ended up just being like totally focused on the festival, with like the record label being a secondary thing.
Yeah.
And so that just like blew the festival up super hard too.
Yeah.
And like I didn't even know what PR was before. It was like it was like a foreign thing to me. It's like, PR, like what the fuck, dude? We have a PR company? Like, what does that mean? And now it's just like, yeah, we're just learning everything as we go. I think we all have really good heads on our shoulders, and we all are doing it for the right reasons. We just announced that our record label, like literally yesterday, we announced that we're going to just start giving away all of our music for free on our SoundCloud. And like, you know, it's still going to go out through distribution and like to Beatport or iTunes, everything will still be like, you know, accessible on there. But at the end of the day, like, it's all about the music, and it's just all about sharing the love of our community, our family, like our crew. And like, what better way than fucking just give all our music out?
Yeah.
It's like, you don't make that much money like selling records anyways.
Yeah.
And like, that's not why we started the record label. It's like, ultimately we just like, we want our community and our family to be heard. And the vibe is so fucking good at Desert Hearts that we, you know, if we can like share that message of love with, you know, people all across the globe through the music that we release, then we can take our festival and we can go fucking throw it around the world.
Yeah.
And so ultimately, you know, like, we want to be able to throw Desert Hearts in fucking Egypt someday, or South America, or something just like totally insane. And so we started throwing City Hearts parties And that was like, okay, our first like big leap was, you know, we were San Diego based. Our first big leap was, okay, like, let's go throw an LA City Hearts. Like there's got to be a ton of people that are coming to Desert Hearts from LA.
Yeah.
And like we threw our first LA party and it was fucking twice the size of any party we threw in San Diego. We're like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
It's like, are you kidding me? Like, okay. Next jump was, all right, let's do a City Hearts San Francisco. Like, you know, there's got to be people from San Francisco that are coming, like, you know, that have heard about this. Through that party, and it was like fucking 600 people on our first party up there. And we literally just threw a party there on Sunday, for City Heart. Like it was our third City Heart San Francisco.
Yeah,
it's like 800 people that came through.
Yeah, let me tell you something, man. That 2,000 cap's not gonna work.
Yeah,
you're gonna need to revisit that particular topic in a couple of years because the demand is gonna exist.
Yeah,
and it's not fair. You're closing the door. You're like, no, just us.
Yeah, but at the same time, it's like,
no, I get the idea behind it. By all means, it's absolutely sincere, but the demand is going to rise to a place where it'll just suck for the people who aren't already in. They're like, I want in. How come I'm not allowed into the club?
Yeah, it's one way of thinking about it. Another way of thinking about it is, so you're familiar with Robot Heart?
Absolutely.
So when we first started going to Burning Man, we went to Robot Heart in 2011, and like we have there's a picture of us dancing at Robot Heart. There's like 30 people there, and it was like that was the fucking shit. Like we got like to see like Mandy, which is like one of our headliners at Desert Hearts, our biggest headliner at Desert Hearts, play for like 30 people on like this dopest sound system ever. Now, like, I don't even go to Robot Heart because there's fucking 5,000 people there. I can't find my friends. Like, it's just a fucking scene. People are just there because it's like the cool thing to do at Burning Man. It's like, I don't know, the vibe is not the same because it's fucking like, it's almost like blown out.
Yeah.
And
you guys think that there's a way to control that?
I don't know. So, well, that's why we're like, okay. So we did up our tickets from, we sold 1,600 last year, or at our 2-year anniversary. And then this year we're allocating 2,000 to sell. And so it's like this slow, like, you know, I think if we grow it by, you know, a couple hundred people each year, it's like, you know, it still allows for a little growth.
Yeah.
But it's never going to feel like, okay, it went from 2,000 people to 5,000 people. Yeah, where it's just like, this is not the same.
Oh, yeah, no, I couldn't agree with you more on that one. Yeah.
So
the very slow growth is very important.
Yeah, if we're gonna keep growing it, like, we're gonna grow it slow. We want to feel in control of it the entire time and like be like, okay, we're gonna add another, you know, couple hundred people.
Yeah.
What can we do with, you know, what can we do with the money that, like, the revenue to like accommodate those people and make the festival even better.
Yeah.
You know, so that's, you know, it's just something that we're gonna have to figure out.
Yeah.
But at this point, it's like I think that, you know, we've been telling people, it's like, this shit's gonna sell out. It's gonna sell out. Like, get your ticket. If you don't get your ticket, you know, I don't feel sorry for you.
Yeah.
It's like,
really? What a dick.
No, I don't think so.
I'm messing with you, obviously.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think it's like, snooze, you lose.
Yeah. No, I was going to actually, I mean, the next question I was going to ask you was what's next, and we kind of got the answer.
So we haven't even announced it yet, but so we're going to announce City Hearts DC and City Hearts NYC.
Oh, wow.
And that's like, you know, that's the fucking true test of how how, you know, how popular, or like, you know, how just the strength of our community. And I think like the plan of attack is just like, we're going to have like just directly reach out to our fans and just be like, spread the word.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sure you have family and friends over in New York City who are like,
why DC and NYC?
New York is like one of the biggest house and techno markets out there. And DC is like, you know, they have a scene that's good, and they have they have a really good club called Flash over there. And so it's like, if we're gonna spend like all this money like going out to New York, like you need to have at least another gig out there to like, you know, if we're doing it, we're gonna fucking go all in.
When is that gonna be?
May 1st and May 2nd.
Wow. That's gonna be amazing.
Yeah.
So if people want to stay like sort of following that information, where should they go?
Our Facebook page.
Okay.
Which is facebook.com/wearedeserthearts.
And you'll have updates and everything. And
everything's all on there. And then also our website is www.deserthearts.us.
Beautiful.
But yeah, that's like the fucking big thing on our mind right now. We're about to announce it like either this week or next week.
Yeah. Well, fuck, I might have to release this podcast sooner so I can beat you to it.
Yeah, right?
Get an exclusive.
Definitely, dude. Yeah, it's gonna be really interesting, but I just think it's ready, and like everyone in New York is kind of like, whoa, like, are you sure? Like, this is fucking, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Like, do you guys really, like, New York's different. New York is different than this like West Coast festival bubble that you live in. Like, people are fucking jaded out here.
Yeah.
Like, they, you know, they've seen everything.
Well, let's go change that.
But yeah, exactly. Yeah. We're like, we've never fucking, you know, nothing's ever like stopped us from like doing something before. So it's like, let's go try.
Yeah.
Let's go give it our best and see what happens. And, you know, we have friends out there who live in New York and are part of like the New York Burning Man scene. So, you know, we're gonna like recruit a bunch of artists and vendors and fire spinners, everything that we would do at our normal parties, and just fucking go for it.
That's beautiful, man.
Yeah.
And are you on Twitter if people want to message you or anything?
Yeah, definitely. It's at DJ Mikey Lion.
Okay. You can tweet him there.
Yeah. And then the Desert Hearts one is at House Techno Love.
House Techno Love.
Yeah.
All right. That's awesome.
Yeah, our whole Desert Hearts mantra is House Techno Love.
Love it. Love it. Listen, Mikey, I'm pretty fucking toasted.
Cool.
All right. Let's call it a night on this one.
Definitely,
thank you so much for coming on, man.
Thank you for having me.
Fascinating, and this has been like the most interviewee interview I've ever done.
Okay.
Where like it may like go into the portfolio of like if I want to get a job like at a major agency or whatever. It's very like we went through your whole life story. We covered it all.
Definitely, man.
So that's awesome. Thank you so much for coming on. Man.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Of course. And there you have it, Mikey Lion on Burner Podcast. I really professional, right? I was like almost like a radio show host on that one. Ew. I can't wait to get back to the next one where we get back to like dick jokes and community stories. But anyway, this is the part of the show where I just kind of give you the end credits and stuff. Please don't skip past it. I swear it's important information. You can tweet me directly at Mr. Arash. That's MRARASH on Twitter. And when discussing the show, please do use the hashtag #BurnerPodcast. Shows are up on Libsyn first, and then on iTunes, and then Stitcher and TuneIn.com. The first and third Wednesday of each month. Like I said in the opening, we have not missed the show yet. And if you can leave us some reviews on iTunes, that would be fantastic. Our intermission music is by an amazing artist by the name of Duckman. Check out his music at duckmansd.bandcamp.com. And if you're a musician in the community, do send us a link to your stuff using the contact page at burnerpodcast.com. We'll try to share it. Go follow the SoundCloud page, Burner Podcast. You can message Nav, our new music editor, if you want him to share some of your stuff, and he'll see if we can get that into the rotation. That would be beautiful. The Burner Podcast theme song is America's Horse with No Name remix, produced by Joman. Check out his stuff at soundcloud.com/DJ Joman.
This episode is produced by Meg King. If you have questions or suggestions for future guests, shoot them over to Meg King. She is on Twitter at @ThatMegKing. That Meg King. Our online editor is Alpi. She writes and curates the blog and can be reached on Twitter at @burner_podcast. Again, that's at @burner_podcast. The underscore is super important. Don't tweet Burner Podcast. That's some fucking record label in Australia that's sitting. I talk so much shit about this poor record label. They might be like some of the nicest people on the planet, but yeah, they're just sitting on that Burner Podcast Twitter handle for no reason, and they're not using it. But anyway, burner_podcast. Or as always, you can use the contact form at burnerpodcast.com. Hope you'll join us next time. We release new episodes on the first and third Wednesdays of the month. I know I just said that 2 minutes ago, but I'm saying it again. So until next time, love and light and all of the crap. Good night.